Phil Spencer talks about the future of Xbox and what they want to accomplish when it comes to the type of games they make. There's a lot to cover here, so let's get into the future of Xbox and if they're truly making the most games they ever have before, and if they're the publisher with the most first-party games around, taking the biggest risks. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by and checking out the video. Remember to hit that subscribe button and that like button. The support is greatly appreciated. And if you want to be notified on future content, make sure to hit that small little bell icon. It helps out the channel a lot. So let's talk about Xbox games and what people think of them, being services and not experiences. There's a lot of people that go around talking about what type of games Xbox is making, that they don't really focus on the single player aspect or the story-driven games, that instead they really focus on the services games that come out and evolve over time. Things like Sea of Thieves that dropped in 2018 and then evolved into one of the biggest games of last generation over the course of 3 years. Or you look at Halo, even Halo 5, that game dropped and again the multiplayer evolved over time. There's a lot of games like that. You look at Apex Legends, you look at Fortnite, and there's countless others out there in the gaming market that have seemingly taken over what gaming is doing. But there's one thing that I think people are not keeping track of, and that's the variety of genres Xbox has in their first-party games alone. The industry looks at it differently. Sony makes single-player games, we all know that, but that's something they focused on for quite some time, and that was almost exclusively what they made last generation. Yet Xbox has tried different games. They have single-player games, big-budgeted games, small games, AAA games, AA games, single-player games, and of course multiplayer games that have gone throughout the industry that we have already talked about. So what does that mean in the industry overall? What are publishers really trying to accomplish? Let's get into what the article is saying about the industry and what it means for Xbox. Over the last decade, the concept of games as a service has revolutionized the way the interactive entertainment industry works. From the subscriptions introduced by massive multiplayer online adventures such as World of Warcraft to the seasonal battle passes of current online shooters, we're seeing a huge amount of focus on games that can sustain a lucrative community of players over several years. But where does that leave more offbeat ideas and concepts that couldn't support years worth of play? Where does it leave the single-player narrative adventure, the blockbusting genre that brought us titles such as Metal Gear Solid, Red Dead Redemption, and Mass Effect? It's a genre Sony has supported through funding the studios that make games such as The Last of Us, Spider-Man, and God of War. But Microsoft has focused its efforts on cross-platform connected games as symbolized by the mammoth Minecraft industry. Is there still room for traditional forms of narrative games on the Xbox Series X? Okay, so as for World of Warcraft and games like that, I feel like that's kind of a different game than what we're talking about here. World of Warcraft is a massive multiplayer online that requires a lot of service, a lot of upkeep, and you can have thousands of people on one server. Now for me, I love that game. I played World of Warcraft for about 10 to 12 years. I got a lot of hours on it. I really do love playing with people that are my friends. I love making it social. But Xbox has games that are not just like that. They have multiplayer games that are tied in with a single player campaign. They feel like a unique set of genre. Halo has a campaign, same with Gears of War. The only difference is you could experience those games with your friends because there's co-op experiences tied with the game. And you can get hours of gameplay from the multiplayer. That's the difference. As for true single player only games like Sony does, those games are far from dead. And I think it's almost misleading for people to talk about that and say that they are very hard to come by, especially when we get so many of them each and every single year. We just had Ratchet & Clank, Returnal, Phoenix Rising, Watch Dogs Legions, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We're about to get The Ascent, Far Cry 6, Psychonauts 2, Hades is dropping in Game Pass. All of these games are single-player, story-driven games. So I'm not understanding the concept of there's no single-player games and they're high risk. To me, they won a lot of the Game of the Year awards. They sell pretty crazy, and there's a bunch of them. I mean, Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, the list goes on. I've played more single-player games than multiplayer games the last 2 to 3 years than anything else. Sure, I play Rocket League, sure, I play Battlefield and all these games with my friends, but overall, numbers-wise, I play a lot of single-player games. And it's something that Xbox is concentrating on, though. It's something that they've talked about, and it's something that Phil Spencer talks about right here. I think we're probably building more of those now than we've been in the history of Xbox, says Xbox chief Phil Spencer. Platform holders, whether that platform is subscription or a hardware device or a store, are actively investing in new and probably more risky things, because if it works, we get value out of bringing players into the ecosystem. So for me, Having variety is a big thing. So people need to stop that narrative when it comes to Xbox. They have a single player experience and multiplayer experiences along with co-op experiences and just different types of games. And there's also games like Gears Tactics, a single player story-driven game that is strategy-driven. It's a turn-based game that I love, XCOM style. But again, people don't talk about that. They don't talk about those big first-party games that really change up what they're doing. I like playing different types of game. I don't want the same first-person shooter or the same third-person shooter all the time. I want a strategy game. I want something of an indie. I want something like The Ascent, something like Hades. You name it, I want to play it, especially if it involves being co-op with my friends. Those are the type of games I love to play the most. And that's what Sony lacks in. They have a great single-player story-driven games. They have amazing of those. No one's complaining about those. But the problem is, for me, there is no difference in their games. Sure, the mechanics are different and I have fun learning them, like Ghost of Tsushima's combat or The Last of Us story, but for me, they don't take risks in their games. And it's something that they've talked about before, right? They were saying that they're going to concentrate on AAA games that are billion-dollar games. Something like Last of Us, something like Naughty Dog or God of War or Spider-Man. All those types of games that I've already played. And sure, I'm looking forward to Horizon and all those other games, but for me, there's a lot of self-contained storytelling in those games, and I get my fix there, along with the third-party games. So I'm not seeing a risk there, but that's something that the article says might actually be a risk. Here's what's said. The thing is, building a gigantic self-contained narrative game is riskier now than it has ever been. To get a team of hundreds of developers working for several years on a project requires a budget in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And unlike an evolving game such as Sea of Thieves or No Man's Sky, you get one shot at making an impact with a narrative adventure. However, Spencer sees an opportunity in using modern platforms and technologies to test out ideas and build a community of fans before release. At last month's E3 trade show, Microsoft revealed that it was planning to combine Game Pass with its streaming technology xCloud, allowing users to try demos of titles before downloading and playing them. So I know they say that it's a risk, but for me, any game is a risk. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of money going into gaming right now, so there is a lot of saturation, so to speak. Look at multiplayer service games that have failed all over the industry or single player games that have failed. It's not about the type of game, it's about the quality of game and if it catches fire. But most of all, it's about gamers and putting them at the center of what you do, which is something that Xbox does more than anyone out there. They test their games, they talk to the gamers and what they want. They've listened to what gamers want. Look at Halo Infinite. When it showed last year, people dogged it. And then now this year, they came back, delayed it for a year, which probably cost them tens of millions of dollars to do, and they made it look better and showed it off in one of the best showings we've seen. And it's something that I give credit to Xbox. They put the gamer first, and it's something that Matt Booty, the head of first party at Xbox, says right here. Matt Booty, head of Microsoft Studios, agrees. I think we will see a lot of games start to include things that are based around scripting and the ability to add to the game, he says. With Forza Horizon 5, we added the ability to design challenges and obstacle courses. We've had Halo Forge, which lets you design your own multiplayer levels. In Flight Simulator, that activity is a lot more sophisticated. So I think we'll see that going forward, where people just have an expectation that they can do more through scripting and mods, and certainly with the addition of Bethesda to the Xbox family, they've got a long history of understanding how mods work. We've seen that with Skyrim. This is where I think people forget about what single-player games can provide to a community. Just because it's single-player doesn't mean you can't enjoy it with other people. Skyrim is one of the best single-player games ever made, yet the community made mods that gave the game life beyond just the story. It's one of the most talked about games still because of the mod support they provided it. That's the whole point, keeping the community involved. I don't like games that I feel like I'm playing alone, that there's no community attached to it. For me, gaming has always been a social experience for me. I love playing games and parties with my friends. I enjoy playing single player games and looking at mods for my friends and I to play with and talk about. But most of all, I like playing single player games that I can play with my friends or I can talk to them about it. Single player, multiplayer, battle royale, it doesn't matter. As long as the game is quality, it will do just fine. But most of all, we need variety in gaming, not the same type of game all the time. Give me something different and let me experience something I've never experienced before. That's the true risk. That's something that Xbox and PlayStation and every other publisher needs to provide me, no matter how different they are. And that's where I see Xbox doing that. They took a risk with Sea of Thieves. They took a risk with a lot of their games, especially especially for me, Sea of Thieves is such a unique game. What game do you have an open world where you can attack other people for doing quests, take their treasure, then be attacked yourself, or do all these other things around the world in an ever-evolving world? That to me is such a good experience, and that's where I think Xbox takes more risks. They brought out Gears Tactics, they brought out Minecraft Dungeons, a lot of games that I've really enjoyed and I can't wait to play. And if you look at their future, again, they're bringing out big games. Redfall, a 4-player co-op game. There's so many other things out there that I want to play and I want to experience. I just hope the developers do that. I hope they take the risks. And I'm glad that Phil Spencer's talking about these risks because it's all about the money and if they can get people to play their games. But enough of what I think about all of this. Tell me what you think. Do you think Xbox will make single-player games? Do you enjoy the variety of games Xbox makes? Are single-player games really that big of a risk? Will multiplayer games dominate the industry? Are developers not making different types of single-player games enough for gamers to enjoy? What type of games do you like to play? Go down below and let me know. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button and that like button to support us out the channel more than you know. And give me a follow on Twitter, @Zalker87. I'm always on there talking games and sharing my latest videos. Plus, I love interacting with everyone there, so get on Twitter and let's talk about gaming. Also, follow me on Xbox Live. My gamer tag is Zalker87, just like my channel name. See what games I'm playing, and let's compete in achievements for the month. So right now, I've been playing a lot of games. I'm telling you, I beat Hive Busters completely in one day, got almost all of the achievements in there. I've been playing Second Extinction, just blowing up dinosaurs all over the place. Talk about a fun game. And I just started Far Cry 5. I know, it's an older game, but I never played it. And so I got it for like $3 or $4 on Steam. So I'm going to play it there. I'm going to have a lot of fun on my PC with it. And I love Far Cry. I'm waiting for Far Cry 6, so I'm getting in that mood. And I'm really waiting for the Ascent. I can't wait to play that. Game Pass is about to drop a lot of games. I'm going to try to beat the Ascent in like a week or two when it drops. And then Hades comes out, and I'm going to try to play that. And then Psychonauts 2 comes out, and then again, I'm going to try to play that. Starting from about a week from now, and to be honest, it started in July for me, Game Pass has had a lot of games just drop in there that I'm going to be stuck playing on Xbox for the next 6 months, if not longer. There's a bunch of games on there, and not really any first-party games coming to the PlayStation that I really care to play right now. So my PS5 is going to sit there. I had Ratchet & Clank, beat it, enjoyed it, but we'll see where we go with that. But let me know what you're playing. Are you playing something on your PC, your Xbox Series X, your PS5, or are you playing something on your Switch? Let me know down below because that's what we're here for. So talk games. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, enjoy your gaming. Later.